Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill, and that's Phil. When we're not podcasting, we're political science professors. I'm at North Central College. He's at Keene State College. Hey, Phil, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Bill?
It's cold. The windshield is like 20 below. We're going to get 5 to 9 inches of snow. Today was maybe the worst as I was walking across campus freezing. I'm ready for spring. Enough. I'm out. I'm done.
At least there's only like 5 more months of winter.
Well, what did the gopher say, or what is it? It's not the gopher. Who's the guy that does the
groundhog? Punxsutawney Phil. Yeah, 6 weeks is what he says. That's always optimistic. When you're in New Hampshire, it's solid May before it's springtime. So
it's going to be a while. Yeah, and this polar vortex appears to have taken over, so it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, though, Phil, we had another impeachment and we had another result.
We did?
The Senate failed to convict President Trump, former President Trump. You had 57 voting for conviction. You had 43 voting to acquit, which meant they didn't get to that level of 67 to convict him. Was the most bipartisan impeachment result, I guess, in history. There haven't been that many impeachments, but a very, I guess, fruitful decision for discussion. So let's start there. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of a glass half full, glass half empty thing for me. I go back and forth between being totally depressed that what is the most, it seems like the most impeachable offense in modern American history. Like if you're not going to impeach someone for this, and I think the House managers did an excellent job of like connecting the dots of, this is a long-term thing that Trump had done, was involved in the planning of it, and his reaction, they did a really good job. And if you're not going to convict for that, it sort of feels like there's never going to be an impeachment in America, like not a conviction at least in American history. And so that's really depressing. It's like the level of partisanship in America feels overwhelming. But on the other hand, like you said, the fact that 7 Republican senators voted to convict him is a massive, like that is a big repudiation, right? Even we can talk about Mitch McConnell, who votes to acquit, but then, lambasts Trump in his speech. So David Frum had a piece in the Atlantic that basically was arguing that this was, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good what happened. And I'm real torn on that. How are you? Are you feeling like this was, a significant repudiation, or is this just like a blank check for future presidents?
It was interesting because you and I have been texting over the last couple of days, and you seem to take it. You were more upset about it. We kind of go back and forth on our pessimism. To me, everything you said is spot on. If there's ever going to be a case for impeachment and conviction, this is it, right? I mean, he inspired a group to attack the Capitol, right? It's a slam dunk case. And the very people who he attacked voted to acquit him. So, I mean, I don't know how you don't in this case. I mean, obviously we know partisanship, but I actually felt like, as frustrating as that was, we did see somebody other than Trump take control of the narrative. And the narrative was bad for Trump on Saturday. I mean, the whole impeachment process has been bad. You're right that the way the House managers presented that case, it was overwhelming, that the long-term rhetoric of Trump had contributed to this anger. He was the fuel behind all of it. And what was interesting for me is that nobody was defending Trump. I mean, they were making these arguments that, well, the Senate can't impeach him because he's out of office, and they were making First Amendment. Nobody was defending the conduct of Trump. And that was very different from the previous impeachment, where they came to his aid and they were supporting him. And then the other thing is he didn't have Twitter. So Trump couldn't drive that narrative. And there was an emptiness there. So, I felt like we came out of it. I was frustrated, but it was clear he had lost, even if he wasn't convicted. And he has been shamed. That speech, McConnell's a weasel for not voting for it, but his speech attacking Trump was devastating. He shredded him. So I think that for me, it feels like the narrative is starting to turn in a little way. Trumpism hasn't been defeated, but as I said, I think Trump has at least taken a hit.
I think you're on good days. I am encouraged and agree with you, and I see that in evidence of like Josh Hawley, who is like silent, and who his like political fortunes have been dashed. So some of the people who are closely affiliated with this have not come out, well in the end. It's one of those where like the words of McConnell and others are it's good that they said that they should be critical, but in the end, right? Like if we're not going to hold someone accountable, it feels like we have like survived this wave, but our inability to call it out, our inability to hold people accountable just bodes really, really badly for the next time this happens, whether that's 5 years from now or 50 years from now. And that's where I just end up uh depressed by it all. I think, that so we talked a little bit, you said that the way the Democrats laid out the case was devastating to Trump. Should they have dragged it out more? I mean, this was part of the debate, right? They wrapped it up pretty quick, and there's an argument that the longer this went on, it was every night on the nightly news, the videos, the exhibits. I sort of felt like the Democrats should have taken the opportunity when there was a vote for witnesses to keep this going, because they did pick up from the beginning 1, 2, 3 Republican senators, and so but also it felt like the American people have no attention span and are already tired of it. So should they have, I mean, could the Democrats have made this even worse for Trump?
I will be interested to hear the behind the scenes conversations that led the Democrats to say, let's pull back. Let's just take the one statement and call it a day. Because like you, it felt like they had momentum. And if you could bring some more people in, specifically focusing on what Trump knew and when he knew it, right? It doesn't seem like there was as much for the incitement stuff, but there was a lot of ugliness to Trump watching, Pence being removed. Like he knew everything was going on and wasn't doing anything. So if you could have gotten more information there, boy, that would have been very, very damning. Now, I wonder behind the scenes whether the Democrats, the Republicans came to the Democrats and said, "Hey, you got 7. If we wrap this up now, if this extends out, I can't take it." So I don't know what kind of negotiations went on behind the scenes. It feels icky that played out. My guess is they probably thought we can get 7 Republicans, we'll take it as a win and run. I would have liked to seen witnesses. I would have liked to seen the conversation play out and then see where that leads, even if fewer Republicans end up signing on. How about you?
I agree. We can, I mean, where the buzzer has gone off, and I'm sure we'll dig into this deeper on the podcast on Wednesday. But, one of the things I texted to you in the middle of this is that the thing that Democrats have been critical of Republicans, during this time period is that Republicans have done the politically expedient thing instead of the right thing. And then it felt like in that moment, what Democrats did was either because they wanted to get onto Biden's agenda and they wanted to, they need to have, tangibles for Democratic voters, or because, Republicans are threatening them and we might lose a few votes or whatever. They did the politically expedient thing instead of the right thing. They did the thing, we're going to do the smart political thing instead of the thing that is right, which is, it's a whole different sort of level and scale, but it's the principle applies. So if you're going to critique Mitch McConnell for doing the thing that is, good for him politically instead of doing the right thing, then you should, lead by example, do the right thing, even if it's not politically expedient in this moment. And so if dragging it out slows down some of your political agenda, or if it loses you some votes, but it's the right thing to do because you're defending democracy and you think Donald Trump should be impeached, then do it right. Don't just do it because it's politically savvy or whatever.
Right. And it does sound like from Trump camp, they were happy that there were no witnesses, right? I mean, I don't think any additional conversation was not going to be good for the president. I mean, that's the point. There's nobody saying, well, we can interpret it this way. No, I mean, Trump's rhetoric contributed to all this, inspired all of this. So the more people are talking about it, the worse it is for Trump and Republicans. So that is a curious decision there. And I wonder to what degree Biden was pushing them, saying, hey, we need to move on. We got to, shift gears. But those are, I mean, there's a lot of time to get the agenda done. So it's short term versus long term. And I think the Senate is even out this week. So they could have stuck around this week.
Well, and I think one of the stories that has been circulating is that the witnesses that they wanted to bring were not going to be cooperative. And so it was going to lead to court cases and all sorts of other stuff, which is, it drags it out. But also you can work on passing an economic stimulus in the weeks while the court case is playing out, while you're waiting for, you can do two things, right? The Democrats should be able to embrace the idea that we can do two things. We can both focus on passing economic stimulus and hold President Trump accountable. If you can only do one thing at a time, it's going to be a rough 4 years.
It is, and I think there's a fear. Everybody's still afraid of Trump and Trumpism and how that roars back. I will say, not having him on Twitter, not having that platform gone, changes this so
Yeah.
dramatically than that first impeachment, where he was every day confronting and consuming how we were talking about it, and that is a big development in and of itself.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we should wrap up. Tune in on Wednesday for the podcast. We'll probably talk more impeachment and maybe some other issues. See you then, Phil.
Bye, Bill. Stay warm.
Yes.